Hi, I'm Miss Morgan. I am the 8th grade history teacher, and I am bringing you today's advisory lesson. It's your lucky day. So there's going to be a couple discussion topics, and teachers, you want to listen for any time I say to pause the video, because that will be the time to discuss these discussion topics. And this lesson relates to something that's going to happen next week. So the first thing I would like everyone to think about is the topic of dedication. So think of a time in your life when you've been really dedicated to something that you've had to do, or an activity that you choose to do and that you enjoy doing. So my example is when I was a senior in college, I was on the soccer team, and I wanted to have a great season since it was the end of my soccer career in college. And so I went running a couple times a week outside of practice because I wanted to improve my fitness level and I wanted to have the best season possible. So I want everyone to think about a time in their life they've shown a lot of dedication towards something, and let's shoot for 3 volunteers amongst the students who are willing to explain an example out loud. So think about a time you've been really dedicated, and teachers, now would be the time to pause the video so that your group has time to give examples of dedication. Okay, welcome back. The next topic that I would like you to think about is sacrifice. Think of a time in your life when you've had to make a sacrifice for some reason. So for example, as a mom, I often have to sacrifice working out because my kids have a soccer practice, basketball practice, birthday party, or something else that they need to do, or some type of activity they're involved in. So students, try to think of an example of sacrifice that you've made, or maybe if you have trouble thinking of that, think of another example of sacrifice, either from a book you've read or someone well-known that you may be a fan of. I'm sure a lot of your parents have to sacrifice workouts and other things they enjoy because they're parents. So let's try to think of other examples besides the one I gave. And again, let's aim for 3 volunteers, and it would be awesome if there's 3 different volunteers, because teachers always love to have a variety of voices. So students, think of an example of sacrifice, and teachers, now would be another good time to press pause and pause the video. So the reason why I ask everyone to talk about these topics is because next Friday you have a day off of school for Veterans Day. So next week we're going to have a Veterans Day assembly on Thursday, and some veterans from the Littleton community are going to come, and we're going to have an all-school assembly. 7th and 8th graders, you've seen it before. 6th graders, this is something new. But I wanted everyone to think about why they have the day off and raise a little bit of awareness for veterans. So I have several veterans in my family. So the black and white picture is a picture of my dad. He was in the Army, and the other picture is a picture of my cousin who was also in the Army. So they're veterans, and my grandfather was also a veteran. And I really admire the dedication and sacrifice that a lot of veterans have had to make in order to be in the military. They go through a lot of hard training. They often have to be away from their families, and they often have to make a lot of sacrifices in order to do their job. And they're very dedicated, and their job can be very risky. Now, my dad was a lawyer. He never fought in any type of battle. But my cousin was in Iraq at least twice, maybe 3 times, I don't remember. But he's been in Iraq, and so every time he was over there, I was, worried what might happen to him. And he wasn't fighting, he was more like at the management level, but still it was dangerous. And a lot of veterans have had to make sacrifices and be dedicated to their jobs, and I really admire all the work that they do, and I think it's important to recognize their work. So the next few slides just have some statistics about veterans that I think might surprise you. So I've got these from history.com, but I was really surprised to see how many veterans there are in the United States. There's 23.2 million military veterans, And the numbers are up there, but I also didn't realize that how many women were veterans. 1.8 million veterans are women. So I thought that was awesome and impressive. So there are some statistics in terms of the age breakdown. And I'm guessing a lot of people in the Littleton Middle School know veterans and have veterans in their family, because I've found amongst the teachers who work here, a lot of us have veterans in our families, somewhere in our families. So this slide talks about some veterans from World War II and the Korean War as well. And those, if you know people who served in those wars, the World War II vets might be your grandparents. Korean War, I'm not quite sure, but maybe also grandparent age. And then the first stat here talks about 33% of all veterans came from the Vietnam War, and that was a very controversial war, and some of those veterans had difficulty when they came back to the United States because not everyone in the U.S. supported that war. And then a more recent time, the Gulf War, the bottom fact tells you how many veterans served in the Gulf War, 5.2 million. I think that's the end. So I hope these stats give you some idea of how many veterans are in the U.S. Like I said, I'm sure some of you know veterans. I've also sent teachers 2 links related to veterans. One is a quick history of Veterans Day from History.com, and the second video link is from one of my favorite shows, What Would You Do? And it just shows how in San Antonio some people really appreciated veterans, and I think you guys might enjoy that clip as well. So lastly, I thank you for being a part of this advisory lesson. And I'm also, I'm going to have each advisory make a card for one of the veterans that's coming to the Veterans Day Assembly next week. And so that will be another part of the lesson. If there's not time for it today, hopefully between tomorrow, Friday the 4th, and next Thursday, advisories can work on a card so that when the specific veterans are introduced, we can give them a card from each advisory, because I think they would really like that personal touch. So thanks again for being part of this advisory lesson. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you learned something from the following videos. Bye.